Hey, Truth Seeker, welcome back. I want to talk about war, and in this case, just for kicks, we're going to talk about the Civil War. I could do this same example with pretty much any war that you know about, and I've already done multiple examples in my video posts and on my written blog. And after we decode this, we're also going to watch the Ken Burns documentary on the Battle of Fort Sumter because it's even better than what I'm about to show you. It's just the icing on the cake. If you're paying attention to the news right now, there's all this talk of war in Yemen and the Middle East. It's just ongoing, a building narrative. And what I've come to discover over the years is that every war has launched and ended on a very curious date numerology, curious treaty names, curious locations, all by these same numbers I keep exposing and everything else. So let's talk about what's important. The Civil War began in 1861, April 12th, with the Battle of Fort Sumter. And as we'll come to see, there were no casualties, not a single casualty in this event. Before the war began, it was March 11th, 3/11, 1861, that the Confederate States declared their Constitution. It would be 32 days later that the Battle of Fort Sumter would happen, or if you count the end date, 33 days. 32 days is also 4 weeks and 4 days. America with Pythagorean gematria equals 32. 7/4/1776. The date we celebrate has a numerology of 32. The acronym UK equals 32. So these are very significant numbers to our nation's existence. Delaware, the first state, has a gematria of 33 established on a 33 date, just like our flag, just like our pledge, just like so much stuff. In the case of the Civil War, the Confederate States were made up of 11 states. 11 states. They were named Dixie. Dixie with Pythagorean gematria sums to 33. Dixie with simple English gematria sums to 51. The word Confederate with Pythagorean gematria sums to 51. Who was the leader of Dixie and the Confederates? Robert E. Lee. Robert E. Lee with Pythagorean gematria sums to 51. And notice that Robert is a 33 name. So the numerology of the date that the war began is a date with 77 numerology. The American meridian is the 77th meridian. Knights of Templar equals 77, the original Freemasons. This coding, never ending. And it's not just American wars. Remember, since my earliest video post, I've been trying to explain that we live in a one world order. The new world order is an old world order. The divisions of nations are a manipulation of the masses. The United States might as well be an illusion. Look at the gematria of the location. Fort Sumter. Pythagorean gematria sums to 47. It's known as the Battle of Fort Sumter. Battle of Fort Sumter has a gematria of 74, the number of the martyr. Only one state has a gematria of 74, the 33rd state, Oregon. Jesus equals 74. Cross equals 74. Joshua, the English translation, equals 74. So much more. Important words equals 74. But again, only one state, the 33rd state. Jesus was crucified at 33. Wars are about sacrifice, martyring men for somebody else's purpose. I want you to notice that the word Confederate with simple English gematria sums to 96, just like Freemason. The Confederate States were a Freemason creation with the rest of the nation. This is called controlling all sides of the debate, all sides of the conflict. This is how they've controlled history. They've sandwiched people by controlling both ends of the spectrum on all societal shaping events, including wars. It's always been this way. Here's the coordinates of Fort Sumter on the 32nd parallel, what we could call the American parallel, not far from the 33rd. Recall that the word murder equals 79. In this case, the only thing murdered was a cow, if history has it correct. What else I want to point out is that Robert E. Lee with simple English gematria sums to 105. This is interesting because the 105th day of the year is April 15th. The date Lincoln died on, 4/15/65, after the war. The Confederate States were created once Lincoln was elected. United States of America with Pythagorean gematria sums to 84. Robert E. Lee was born 119, January 19th. Right now, our country's been threatening war with Syria and al-Assad, who's born September 11th, 911. We know about these numbers in our nation's history. You know, as a little kid, this would have never stood out to me because 9/11 hadn't happened yet when I was learning about Robert E. Lee. But now it's just way too obvious. And look at his life number. 1 plus 19 is 20, plus 7 more is 27. He was likely murdered at the end of his life. He died in the only month with 33 gematria, October, at the age of 33. On a date with 92 numerology, which means 9 plus 2 equals 11. Like the 11 states he once oversaw, the Confederate States of Dixie. Never ends, truth seeker. Wars are brewing all throughout this world, and they're coded by the dates. Last year, Russia annexed Crimea on 3/11. Once upon a time, Russia moved their capital from St. Petersburg to Moscow on 3/11. And the United States, our education system began on 3/11. And so much more. The World Trade Centers were approved March 11th. The Lend-Lease Act, getting us involved in World War II, began March 11th. Lots of 3/11s in our nation's history. Wars by the numbers, truth seeker, all throughout the world. And watch, the next big one that starts, it'll be by the numbers too. Have no doubt. Have no doubt. Let's watch this little Ken Burns documentary.
The Civil War began at 4:30 a.m. on the 12th of April, 1861. General Pierre-Gustave Toutant Beauregard ordered his Confederate gunners to open fire on Fort Sumter. At that hour, only a dark shape out in Charleston Harbor. Confederate Commander Beauregard was a gunner, so skilled as an artillery student at West Point that his instructor kept him on as an assistant for another year. That instructor was Major Robert Anderson, Union commander inside Fort
Notice another Robert. They love this name, the 33 gematria.
Sumter. All the pent-up hatred of the past months and years is voiced in the thunder of these cannon, and the people seem almost beside themselves in the exaltation of a freedom they deem already won. The signal to fire the first shot was given by a civilian, Edmund Ruffin, a Virginia farmer and editor, who had preached secession for 20 years. Of course, he said, I was delighted to perform the service.
I just want to point out that Edwin Ruffin sums to 66, another number of significance. If you add 1 through 11, it sums to 66. If you write out the word 33 and sum it with Pythagorean gematria, it sums to 66. So even all these historical figures, they are by the numbers.
Hours later, a white flag over the fort ended the bombardment. The only casualty had been a Confederate horse. It was a bloodless...
Whoops, I said a cow earlier. I meant a horse. The lone casualty in the event that started the war was a horse? I mean, I thought they said he was an expert artilleryman. This is just all part of the hoax, truth seeker. Our history is one hoax after another. This is how they've steered the masses.
Opening to the bloodiest war in American history.
The first gun that was fired at Fort Sumter sounded the death knell of slavery. They who fired it were the greatest practical abolitionists this nation has produced.
April 13th. So civil war is inaugurated at last. God defend the right.
There it is, Truth Seeker. The Ken Burns covering of our history. And what I want to point out with this number 311 is that in Jewish gematria, it equals the beast. The acronym USA breaks down to 311. Use the 21st letter, 2 plus 1 becomes 3. S is the 9th letter, 1 plus 9 becomes 10, 1 plus 0 becomes 1. A is the first letter, USA is 311. Check out Rhode Island, the 13th and final colony, 311. See, it's all part of a plan, all part of a pre-planned script. And these are the tributes along the way. The people who are ruling this world probably have the next century planned out for us. And we're just going through what's already been planned long ago. This is how history's been. The beast, God of earth. I don't think these are coincidences, Truth Seeker. I don't think these are coincidences one bit. After September 11th, the tribute to light began on March 11th. The tribute in light, those giant purple beams made up of 88 lamps. And would you know the color purple sums to 88 with simple English gematria? Just like Uncle Sam. If they had Pythagorean gematria, I'd type in George Washington and it would calculate to 88. But this is what we live in, Truth Seeker. A numerological hoax. Sam alone is 33. That's why he's Uncle Sam. Just like it was once upon a time, Dixie. All right. Until next time.